driving to the next job. Running out of work to do this week pretty fast, it's good. Go back to Be Poor Hardcore. See how things are over there. Decal carbon right here there. It's always a bit of fun. So I hope that last bit about the ergonomic weed eater use was useful in some way. It's actually a very critical point to get approximately right. It took me a while, that's for sure. That's because the guy I was learning off was short, and I'm 5'11", right? Which is tall for someone in this line of work, at least in this town. Got the old leverage disadvantage, eh? Which is why the short people are better at it, especially in a town like this, because there's so much lifting involved, strain on your back, holding things out in funny ways. So us tall lanky fellas, we have to use correct technique, that's all. Most don't. And sometimes I think it might even slow us down a little bit, but you don't have to be the best in town in order to get by. You just have to do reasonable work for a fair price, and then that's all good. You know, it's not an Olympic sport. It's mostly just question of looking after yourself, not going too crazy. You know, if you're like me and you want to be able to continue until the oldness. Lower back is so critical. And I've just been learning about one of the reasons people get lower back trouble is insufficient blood flow. So a lot of the tissue there in your lower back, it's not like got full-on arterial support, you know, it hasn't got a full pumping kind of a network. So there's some of the tissue in there, it just gets by on what do you call it, diffusion, to a degree. And what people get is they get plaque in their lower back arteries and that causes restriction to the blood flow, so there's not like the maximum blood flow in your lower back. Having maximum blood flow in your lower back is good, it's better in terms of keeping that tissue well and healed up properly. So what I've been doing to get my lower back good is basically just removing the cholesterol out of my diet, which is pretty easy actually. It's nice, nature's organised it quite well for us. We can tell what's got cholesterol in it. If it eats sunlight and poos air, then it's probably not going to be high in cholesterol, apart from maybe coconuts. I'm not sure about them. No way, it's interesting, I have to look into it. But that seems to be the rule anyway. If you eat the things that eat sunlight and poo air, then you have a real good chance of having a healthy circulatory system, which in turn keeps your lower back in good nick, among other things. It's really interesting, eh? Like, I remember I always used to think, oh, science doesn't know about nutrition. It's all bullshit. They always say one thing and then they say another thing and then they say another thing. Boom. Which is true, they did for a long time say all sorts of things, and there's all sorts of, getting all sorts of messages. Well, this was before the internet, you know. I mean, we still definitely don't know it all, but the genuine knowledge is getting so much greater than what it used to be. It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. In a good way. Oopsie daisy. Dropped you there now, didn't I? The roundabout. So yeah, it's a great thing, I think, the way we've got our knowledge more solidified and concretified as to what's basically good for us. Like, I mean, we know how much water is basically good for us, and that good exercise is good, and so is enough sleep and all that, but just the knowledge we have now in nutrition is amazing. It's just right at your fingertips. And what gets me is that you don't need to know all that much in order to get it right if you're a normal, average type person without any rare and unusual special requirements. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like, when I was a kid, I'm 36. It wasn't long ago. When I was a kid, we just didn't know. You know, there's a few people who went plant-based, but it was always for ethical reasons, emotional reasons, compassionate reasons, whatever. But now, we're just about getting to the point where it's just going to be, you know, country people who've got access to wild game, a few people who have an unusual fondness for eggs and have chickens in their yard, some poor folk that live by the ocean. It's going to get to the point, like, food values change so much. 50, 60 years ago, for example, crayfish was something just for poor people. Now it's become, in my lifetime, maybe even slightly before, but it's become, you know, a real fancy smancy delicacy thing to eat, the good nice 20-year-old cray. and it's expensive. You know, people pay a lot of money for the privilege. But whoops, daisy dropped you again. But it wasn't like that. It used to be something for poor folks, and it probably will be again something for poor folks. For people who can't afford to pay actual money for food at all, you know? Interesting, eh? And we will give value to what's actually good for us again. And then there's this whole ethical debate as well. You know, I definitely have my feelings on that, but because of where we are at the moment, I don't really expect anyone to behave ethically. Because people are going to be people, right? They're going to behave according to society's norms and expectations. And they're going to believe that society's norms and expectations are a constant and a given, and it's how it's always been, which is patently false, observably false. You don't even have to experiment or think particularly hard to know that. You just have to be willing to criticize. It's not hard. It doesn't take an unusual special amount of intelligence. I would have stopped there just then, but I didn't want to freak people out. Oh, I can park in there now. I don't think I'm going to though. I'm going to park over here. I don't mind walking a little bit to my job. Well, that was a bit rambly. And I dropped the camera twice. I'm going to have to get a stand for it, aren't I? Yeah. This stuff is changing. Like it always has been. We didn't necessarily used to notice so much that it was changing, just notice that it had changed. Like, you know, the old person saying when they were 60 or whatever in 1984, ah, well, crayfish is considered a delicacy nowadays, is it? Yeah, we didn't think it was much chop in my day. And there it ended. They wouldn't really consider that change is, you know, change of values, change of what we hold to be fact, even if we don't call it fact, is really constant. And I'm quite excited about this next change in our food values, because, well, I mean, I keep going on about it. It's just because it's I wouldn't, maybe it's not the first one based on science, but it seems to be the best one so far. Well, it's definitely the best one for right now. I'm sure when we first made the change to eating big land mammals, it was exactly the right thing for that moment too. You know, we do what we need to in any given moment. I understand a lot of these young vegan types. They get really excited about how It's the absolute right thing. It's not the absolute right thing. It's the absolute right thing now. But, you know, 2 million years ago it wasn't. But it is now, that's all. Two million years ago, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, really wasn't a problem. Didn't really cause any trouble. It takes a long time to form. And in the meantime, you've got all those bloody calories, which is, you know, more important than dying of a heart attack in old age. Especially in terms of selection, you know. So yeah, culture's going to change. So don't worry about these young ones getting super excited and being convinced that they're right and you're wrong. Don't worry about them. It's just the way things change. And it's going to take a little while. Like, would it be quite good if it had happened already? And it does tend to lag, you know. Humans aren't really that bloody great. Alright, you know, pretty cool species, but and we adapt, you know, pretty fast relative to other species, but I think if we were to adapt to things like this faster, it would be sweet, you know, it'd be good. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. That was another little ramble. See you later.